Now let's move on to the first session. Dr. Shoji Noguchi will be the chairperson of this session. Dr. Noguchi, please come up to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Session 1 on JIRCAS International Symposium 2023. I am Shoji Noguchi, Director of Forestry Division in JIRCAS. I will be chairperson for this session. As you know from keynote speeches, tropical forests play important roles in ecosystem functions such as carbon stocks, diversity, and soil and water conservation. It is also a source of various useful resources, including timber production. This session focuses on enhancing resilience of tropical forest landscapes and trees from aspects of forest management, forest genetics, and forest environmental policy. We have 3 distinct speakers who will address case study on this topic in Southeast Asia, particularly in Malaysia and Indonesia. Now, I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker, who is Dr. Mohd Shukri, Director of Forestry and Environmental Division in Forest Research Institute, Malaysia. FLIM. JIRCAS has a long history of collaborative research with FLIM, which is one of the leading institutions in tropical forestry research. So the title of his presentation is Sustainable Forest Management and Conservation. Now, Dr. Shukri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Konnichiwa. Thank you for inviting me to present something, to share something on the sustainable forest management and conservation in Peninsular Malaysia especially. And of course, it's a great honor to me to stand here with you all, the experts. The title of the presentation is Sustainable Forest Management and Conservation. Let us talk some overview about forest resources in Malaysia. As presented before by Prof. Kitajama, tropical forest is the most diverse ecosystem in the world. It receives more than 60% of the global biodiversity is in the tropical forest, and so many functions of the tropical forest. For example, regulate climates, control floods and droughts, and it's also said that 25% of the terrestrial carbon stored in this tropical rainforest. It's also key sources of valuable products such as timber and medicine. For those not being able to visit tropical forest, this is some layout of the tropical forest. Untouched tropical forest, we have several layers of canopy, 4 or 5 canopy. And some of the criteria of the tropical forest, we receive sunlight roughly at 90 degrees, so it makes us consistent dayland, 12 hours day and 12 hours at night, and it's usually warm year-round. And the most important one is the canopy can hold 90% of the species in the ecosystem that reside in the canopy. So we can imagine if we don't have canopy in the forest, or we have less canopy in the forest, what happened to us? What happened to the biodiversity? So that is so important that we have to retain the forest. This is a type of forest in Malaysia. We have several type of forests. From the sea, we find shoreline forest, mangrove forest, peat swamp, lowland tropical forest, and the hill and upper hill tropical forest up to the mountain forest. So in Malaysia, anything above 1,000 meters above sea level is a protection forest, cannot be logged. but most of the permanent forests, PFR, permanent reserve forest, is now in the hill and upper Hidetoka forests. Why? Because the lowland Hidetoka forests normally and much are converted into agriculture and also development. To 2022, we still have 54.58% of the land area covered by the forest. That's what we promised at Rio 1992, that we have to retain, we want to retain at least 50% of our land by forest. But if you look at the graph here, it's going to be less and less forest throughout the years. So in forest management, we divided into three. One is a forest reserve, another one is a state land and a protection forest. Okay, some regulation related to SFM. Forest in Malaysia is a state land forest. It belongs to the state. Even we apply the same or a little bit different in the system, but all state governed by sustainable forest management. But they have a little bit ways to manage the forest by enactment. So they have a state enactment and they have a state ordinance. For example, every state in Peninsular Malaysia have their own forest enactment, and Sarawak, they have a forest ordinance, and also Sabah, they have a forest enactment. The base system is, the basis is the same for sustainable forest management, but a little bit difference in managing, especially in tropical forests. Okay, amendments are already made for regional forestry laws, and currently we have a Malaysia national law. Rather than before this, we have three different policy. We have a peninsular policy, Sabah and Sarawak. But currently we have only one national policy, which is Forest National Policy, which is govern the three regions. Okay, this is some of the strategies for SFM. Of course, we have to ensure the sufficient forest area, manage, conserve and rehabilitate the forest area on the principle of sustainable management, continuous supply of raw material, participation of indigenous people, and also capacity building. And in managing the forest is not easy, so we have to encourage multiple use of forest. No more timber oriented, but also we have to look at the diversity, biodiversity, recreation, community, research, climate change, and everything. Okay, this is a summary of how we operate the production forest. So before we log, of course, we have some pre-failing inventory, and we manage to analyze the data, and we log the forest, and the cycle is 30 years, that we can come back at the same area within 30 years. Our forest is certified under MTSC, FSC, and also PEFC, and also chain of custody. Some of the activities in the country, we embark on the Greening Malaysia 1 million tree planting campaign, starting from January 2021. Up to date, we already planted, if not mistaken, around 65 million already. Central Forest Pine, where we re-establish, maintain, and restore the forest connectivity within the country. Heart of Borneo, there is a trans-boundary cooperation between Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Nationwide coastal tree planting program, especially on mangroves. forest rehabilitation and restoration program. And I will talk something on R&D related to sustainable forest management. This is what myself leading for. We try to introduce intensive forest management rather than we currently apply such selective management system where all the trees in the compartment, selected trees in the compartment going to be logged. But why not we just log 30% of the area and leave behind 70% for protection area? For example, for biodiversity, for carbon, for anti-FP, and another function. But we concentrate on the 30% for production. So we know what we're going to produce within the next 15 years. We know what is the species can be produced, and also we can create icon species. For example, for Malaysia, we don't have any icon species. So we can create icon species, we can plant specific species within that 30% of the area. Currently, our secondary forest only produce about 50 to 60 meter cube per hectare of timber, including of a good timber and also non-commercial timber. But by doing this, we hope that we can increase that 60 meter cube per hectare to almost 160 meter cube per hectare. All the commercial species planted in this 30 area. Okay, we also have a mangrove project, a rehabilitation project. This is one of the examples in Sungai Haji Durrani in Selangor. If you see in 2007, there are nothing there, but in 2020, there is a new island there. So we plant, this is a geotube, so we plant the mangrove behind the geotube and create a new island in 2020. We have a big plot in Paso Negeri Sembilan. We have a 50 hectare plot. Forest Zoo, Harvard work in Paso. So we have more than 800 species. We identify, we map, and we tag all the trees more than 1 centimeter diameter. So we have more than 300 over 1,000 trees within that 50 hectare. Smart Forest, there's another project. We gave an option to the forest manager that no more traditional management, so we have to do smart monitoring. We have to do on smart hydrology and also productivity. Okay, of course we face so many challenges in securing our forests. For example, lack of financial resources for sustainable forest management, securing sustainable forest reserve strategically located throughout the country. That's another problem. We have to fight with agriculture, with the development, balancing between productivity and also protection, and also something related to carbon, to international treaty, international agreement. Okay. And as a forester, we need to balance between we also need a forest, we also need a good environment, and also we need also a development, especially at the Southeast Asia country. So we have to think this is our job. Let's bring our hand together to save our forests and also to have a sustainable development. With that, I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shukri. So the next presentation will be given by Dr. Naoki TANI. He is a senior researcher of the Forestry Division in JIRCAS and the project leader of Tropical Forest Resilience Project under SATREP's program. He is also a professor of University of Tsukuba. Dr. TANI will talk on issues on enhancing tropical forest resilience and production through tree breeding technology. So, Dr. TANI, please.
Thank you very much for your introduction to me. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Naoki TANI from JIRCAS. I'm working in the tropical forest of Southeast Asia, reproductive ecology and tree breeding. Today, I would like to talk about improving productivity and resilience to climate change through the management of forest genetic resources and tree breeding. So tropical forests are said to be a treasure of the biodiversity. A 50-hectare plot in the Borneo Island, Malaysia, is home to as many as 1,200 species of the trees. This is more than the number of the species that occur throughout in Japan. The biodiversity can be divided into 3 layers. The first is the genetic diversity, which means that even within the same species, DNA sequences differ, producing different characteristics, just as each other is different. Second is the species diversity here, which means species richness. Tropical species diversity is very rich. Third is ecosystem diversity. An ecosystem is a relationship between the species existing at the site and the environment. All of these are resources for strengthening resilience. Therefore, maintaining these diversities will improve resilience. However, in today's tropical forest, these diversity are declining and degrading. Thus, biodiversity is still being lost. All this figure shows the loss of the forest continues to this day, and the tropical region, this area, shown in the red color, you can see this tropical forest is declining and degrading. Even if tropical forests are maintained as forest, degradation occurs when trees are cut down excessively. In this photo, the forest has never been logged in this area, but on the other slope, the forest is extensively logged and then burned. The figure on the right shows a study of the forest degradation in Sabah, Malaysia, based on difference in species composition. It can be seen species composition does not change in natural forest, and forest after log using harvesting method with reducing impact. On the other hand, the species composition change with the conventional logging system. Thus, even if the forest is maintained without proper management, the species composition of the forest will change, and forestogenic resources will be degraded. Thus, tropical forests are decreasing and degrading. Therefore, activity underway to restore the forest. In forest restoration, the supply of the suitable seed stock has become an important issue. Please see this graph. This is a list of the problems that arise in the seed market. While obtaining seeds from the market, it is not always possible to obtain seeds from the preferred origins. And lack of seed, low quality of seeds, these problems are frequently observed in the market. The below focus on the problem related to the seed supply source. Here we can see the seeds are not produced from the preferred origin. There are many cases of the seed production site being degraded and fragmented, resulting in the lack of the healthy seed production. In tropical region, supplying system of the suitable planting materials should be improved. Tropical forest said to be a treasure of the biodiversity, but the number of the tree species used for the large-scale plantation is very limited. In Southeast Asia, there are 2 major climatic zones. The area shown in the blue, this area, is called tropical humid climate, where there is a certain amount of rainfall throughout the year. Rainforest developed in this area. The light blue area, this area, called tropical monsoon climate, which has wet and dry season. Some tree species are deciduous during the dry season. In humid tropical climate, the dipterocarp species, this one, is dominant. With about 470 species, the dipterocarp is the main species of wood production and processed into plywood. However, the number of the dipterocarp species used for the planting is not so very large, only about 10 species. Acacia is another species that come from Australia, Papua, and the Marco Island. The species is planted on the large scale, mainly on the island of Sumatra here, forming monoculture plantation like this photo. Acacia is processed into pulp and paper is produced. The monsoon climate, teak, this one, is widely planted and produce high-grade timber. And Falcataria, this one, leguminous tree, is widely planted for plywood. This species can grow very fast. Other than this list, eucalyptus, rubber tree, also widely planted, and also oil palm is planted in large scale and home monocultural plantations. Although forests such as natural forest with high species diversity may have some resilient tree species and mitigate the risk of the climate change. However, in the large-scale plantations, single tree species is planted over a large area, and thus vulnerability to climate change is extremely high. Therefore, we believe measures to address vulnerability should be initiated. Here, I would like to look at the risk of the climate change and adaptation measures. This upper right figure shows an example from Indonesia. As the figure shows, overall temperature projects to rise. Rainfall, this one, the projection is more difficult, but in the area shown in brown here, rainfall is predicted 2 degrees, and local drought is a concern. To adapt to climate change, the Indonesian government has developed an adaptation plan called RAN API. The goal is maintain sustainable development through effort to develop adaptation measures. In the forestry sector, efforts are made to develop adaptation measures in response to declining production and environmental changes in forest lands. As one of the adaptation strategies, development of resilient tree species and varieties are required. In this way, the established resilient forest can be expected to help to mitigate the climate change. Let us now look at the vulnerability of the forest genetic resources of climate change. The primary cause of the tree mortality is drought. Under the future climate change, regional drought are predicted in the tropical forest. Trees are filled with the water in their channels from root to the tip. Once this water supply is interrupted, which is called hydraulic failure, the chance of the mortality increase. The graph of the left shows the risk of the hydraulic failure in each climate zone, this one. It can be seen that even trees in the tropical monsoon, which are considered to have a certain degree of tolerance to drought, have the same risk of the hydraulic failure as a tree in the tropical humid climates. The figure of the right look at the risk of the regional hydraulic failure comparing to other tropical regions. Tropical forests in Southeast Asia are more vulnerable to hydraulic failure. So, how will tropical forests change in the future? The color of this map indicates environmental suitability of the teak plantation in Java, Indonesia. Green color shows that suitable site. Red color shows unsuitable site. The left shows the calculated suitability under the current environment. You can see suitable site in blue color and unsuitable site in red color. The climate change model was used to project suitability in 2050. Here, I show the 2 scenarios, RCP 2.6. This is called the low stabilization scenario, which is limited to 2 degrees Celsius rise in 2100. Many countries will need to make considerable effort to achieve this. RCP 8.5, this is a 4 degrees Celsius by 2100. So surprisingly, this RCP 2.6 scenario, especially Western Java, would have turned suitable site into unsuitable site. In this case, RCP 8.5, the area suitable land become very small. So this is a projection for 2050, so 27 years after. It take about 20 to 30 years for harvest. The pace of climate change is so rapid that even the seedling planted today could be affected. One of the adaptation strategies to utilize alternative genetic resources from rich tropical forest. However, there are not many tree species used for the large-scale plantation. It is also necessary to improve the tree species currently in use. So, our research group is working on improving forestry species to increase their resilience by tree breeding with genomic technology. In conventional forestry breeding, the main breeding target are growth, wood properties, and resistance to disease. First, trees with good characteristics are selected. They are called plus tree. The seedling from plus tree is planted in progeny trial to verify their performance. The problem is that it takes many years to grow this progeny trial. In our project, we introduced a technology to shorten the verification time, which is called as genomic selection. Using this technology, we make models to predict future trace value from the genomic sequence of the seedling. In this way, we don't have to wait for the next generation seedling to grow. We hope to select highly productive and resilient seedling for forestry and introduce them to the market. I would like to briefly explain what traits we will focus on to improve resilience. Here, we focus on the resilience to drought, which is thought to increase with climate change. The upper left figure shows study on the relationship between the wood density and mortality rate during droughts. It can be seen lower wood density is more vulnerable to drought. The lower figure, this one, shows a study of the leaf characteristics. The larger specific leaf area, the higher mortality rate. The right also show wood density increase, resistance to the hydraulic failure is also increased. The trees with low wood density are more vulnerable. This means that large-scale plantation for fast-growing species like Falcataria and Acacia is more vulnerable. We intended to focus on these traits and select higher resilience individuals. So, in order to realize this R&D, a program called SATREPS, which is implemented by JSC and JICA, has been started with Indonesian counterpart since 2022. The Indonesian side is represented by Universitas Gadjah Mada with BRIN and the guidance and cooperation of the Ministry of Environmental Forestry Indonesia. In addition, 3 private companies are expected to cooperate. On Japanese side, JIRCAS and 5 research institutes and private company, Sumitomo Forestry, participate into this project. Here is a view of the activity of this project. We set the study forest of Falcataria and teak in Indonesia. We have started sampling and phenotypic measurement. Okay. So finally, in this project, we hope to create the following outcomes. Resilient individuals and propagation system and guideline for the forest plantation and the climate change and value-added ecosystem services and ecosystem analysis, economic analysis. We cooperate with some companies to introduce our outcome into their forestry activity. Finally, we hope that our strategy will enhance the sustainability of the tropical forest in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for your attention today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. TANI. So let me now introduce our last speaker in this session, Dr. Motoe Miyamoto, team leader of Forest Environmental Policy in Forestry and Forest Product Research Institute in Japan. Dr. Miyamoto was affiliated with the JIRCAS before. I was her colleague at the time, so I know that her scientific strength is the analytical ability based on on-field data. So the title of her presentation is Deforestation Mechanism and Sustainable Solutions. Dr. Miyamoto, please.
Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to have the opportunity to address this distinguished gathering and discuss the critical issue of tropical deforestation. My presentation titled Deforestation Mechanisms and Sustainable Solutions aims to shed light on the complex causes of deforestation and present viable long-term solutions. I hope this talk will provide valuable insights and stimulate a meaningful dialogue. Deforestation in the tropics has increased since the 1970s. It has become a global environmental issue and a major source of greenhouse gas emissions. Global efforts to reduce deforestation have increased via climate change mitigation schemes. REDD+, the concept of REDD+ was first proposed at the UNFCCC in 2005. Also, SDG Goal 15 includes halting deforestation as a target. However, the results of the efforts over the past 10 years have not met the initial expectations. Why efforts have not met the initial expectations? Because of inappropriate strategies being adopted. The main reason is the incomplete understanding of the causes of deforestation. Proximate causes are already clear: agricultural expansion, commercial and export crops, road construction, etc. But underlying causes are not well understood because they were not identified. For a long time, population growth, economic growth, poverty, insecure land tenure, and other socioeconomic factors have been examined, but they weren't identified. First, I want to explain proximate causes. The main proximate cause of deforestation is the conversion of forest to agriculture. This land use change is due to an increase in agricultural rent. Agricultural rent is agricultural profitability. This concept is based on the von Thunen model in economic geography, where land is allocated according to the highest rent. Rent, and this is the equation of rent. Rent is determined by production, productivity, and market price, and transport costs, and production costs. Factors increasing agricultural rents include social environment capable of economic growth and trade, which increase productivity. And export crops raises market price. And road constructs cut transport costs. And low wages lower production costs. So proximate causes of deforestation are already clear, but underlying causes were not identified. To effectively prevent tropical deforestation, understanding these underlying causes is essential. Therefore, I focused on examining the main underlying cause, drawing on our empirical studies in Southeast Asia, particularly Malaysia and Indonesia. These studies have led me to identify poverty as the primary underlying cause of deforestation. This is a Malaysian study. We conduct the study in Peninsular Malaysia. And we collected data on forest cover and 21 socioeconomic variables in 1970 to 2010 and analyzed data. The results show that poverty rates have the strongest impact on forest area change. This photo is an oil palm plantation in Peninsular Malaysia. Oil palm development was one of the main poverty reduction strategies initiated by the Malaysian government. For example, the Federal Land and Development Authority, FELDA, established in 1956, developed oil, palm, and rubber plantations and gave them to the landless poor, total 112,000 households until 1992. This is an Indonesian study. Indonesian study involves household surveys on land tenure and forest clearing activities in 1970 to 1990s. The results, analysis results show that high agricultural population density and shortage of agricultural land increased local forest clearing activities. This photo is farmers' rubber plantation. You can see the big trees, this tree and this tree are rubber trees. But other tree species are many there. So this kind of rubber plantation is known as jungle rubber. Farmers converted the forest to rubber to improve their economic situation. Farmers acquired the land by clearing forests based on their customary law. I want to explain more detail the relationship between deforestation and poverty. Does deforestation, forest conversion to agriculture, increase poverty? The answer is both, yes and no. It depends on the profitability of agricultural land. In Indonesian sites, yes, because of low profitability of rubber plantations. Farmers converted forests to rubber, but their jungle rubber has low profitability. So they couldn't overcome poverty. So they often sold rubber land for living expenses. It made inequality in land holdings increased. And also households having little or no land increased. So poverty increased. In Peninsular Malaysia, the answer is no, because of high profitability. Our statistical analysis shows that oil palm development reduced poverty, especially the strongest impact. Actually, oil palm and rubber smallholders received full government support. For example, Rubber Industry Smallholders Development Authority, RISDA, provides technical support to all rubber smallholders, such as high productive seedlings, fertilizers, and subsidies for replanting. This question is critical. Does reduction of poverty reduce deforestation? The answer is yes. There is evidence from Peninsular Malaysia. These photos are farmers' houses in 1967 in Felda oil palm village. But in 2011, their houses are built newly by themselves. It means farmers overcame their poverty. And actually, in Peninsular Malaysia, this is a forest area. This is a poverty rate. Deforestation decreased when the poverty rate fell below 20% in the 1980s. So I explored the mechanisms of deforestation based on these findings and previous studies. The conclusion is that deforestation can be explained by 3 factors. One is poverty as the underlying cause, and agricultural rent as the proximate cause, and forest scarcity as a key factor that decreases deforestation. Specifically, high poverty rate and high rate of increasing agricultural rent and high forest coverage, if all the conditions coexist, deforestation will happen. I demonstrated the mechanism by a logical equation, but for an easy understanding, I show you the figure. And a logical equation has a principle. If a logical equation is true, then contraposition of a logical equation is also true. So this is a contraposition of deforestation mechanism equation. And it means low poverty rate, low or negative rate of increasing agricultural rent, and low forest coverage. If any of the conditions exist, deforestation will be reduced. This is derived by a logical equation, but not only that, but also supported by empirical studies. This is a very groundbreaking finding, because previously all causes of deforestation should be eliminated. People think that. But actually, this mechanism shows only one factor. If we address only one factor, it leads deforestation reduction. So current efforts to halt deforestation is mainly strategies to reduce agriculture rent. The characteristics is strategies to reduce agriculture rent in tropical rural areas. For example, protected area expansion, moratorium on forest clearance, investment restrictions on companies linked to deforestation, i.e. forest conversion to agriculture. Their effectiveness is high, immediate impact, but they could be poor sustainability due to high cost and socio-economic impact to local communities. So I propose poverty reduction strategies as the sustainable solutions. The characteristics is strategies to reduce poverty rates in developing countries. Content is developing a comprehensive social infrastructure to help impoverished populations overcome poverty. For example, providing highly profitable agricultural land, agricultural technical support, education and medical support. Their effectiveness is very high because they offer fundamental solutions, and also the sustainability is high. This is my last slide. I will conclude. Sustainable solutions to deforestation. Global efforts to halt deforestation require a shift in focus from agricultural rent reduction strategies to poverty reduction strategies. Specifically, multifaceted strategies to reduce poverty rates in developing countries can be sustainable solutions to deforestation. The scope should cover the impoverished populations of the entire country or region, and the objectives should enable impoverished population to overcome poverty. The content includes providing comprehensive social infrastructure, including agriculture, healthcare, and education to impoverished populations. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miyamoto. So now we have reached the end of our presentation in this session. It was interesting for us to hear this talk. So Dr. Shukri addressed the presentation on sustainable forest management and conservation. I think that the presentation contained useful information for realizing sustainable forest management, such as a nature-based solution and ecosystem-based approach. Next, Dr. TANI gave the presentation on enhancing tropical forest resilience and production through tree breeding technology. So we were able to learn about the latest forestry research in Indonesia. Finally, Dr. Miyamoto gave the presentation on deforestation mechanism and sustainable solutions. I understood that it was necessary to reduce poverty rates in developing countries for halting deforestation, and that the multifaceted strategies were important for this purpose. Interestingly, the latest report suggests that tropical Asia may be making progress toward achieving zero deforestation, in contrast to regions such as Brazil that continue to struggle with extensive deforestation. I hope that today's presentation will give us some hints on how to use tropical forests sustainably and that we may also be able to see some positive sign for realizing the sustainable forest management of tropical forest. So I think somebody may have the question for the speakers. However, it seems that time is running out. So if you have some questions, so please join the panel discussion that will be held after session 2. So it's time for us to close this session. Finally, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers once again for their enlightenment, and thank you for everybody. Please join me in a round of applause for the speakers.
Thank you very much to the speakers and chair of the first session. Now we are going to take a 10-minute coffee break. Please return to your seats by 3:35. Thank you.